The Search Podcast USA Edition series is sponsored by PGC. PGC are the longest serving employer of record in North America and can compliantly engage contractors across both the US and Canada on behalf of staffing and recruitment businesses. Our turnkey solution offers a unique access point to the largest staffing market in the world. To find out more, visit us at pgcgroup.com.
Hi everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Search Podcast. I'm Elliott Manning, the Managing Director of Cayman Recruitment. Excited for this episode this week. Got a phenomenal recruiter based out in Austin, Texas, who's been over there for quite a few years, working for Signify Technology. But I'll let you run with an intro, mate.
Yeah, thanks, Elliott. So I've been with Signify now for years, but been in recruitment since 2011. Initially kind of fell into the UK market doing the contract recruitment market. It was very, very difficult to start. I didn't really have a brand or a niche. It's very different to what we do right now, but kind of jumped in doing the general technology, trying to be this recruiter in London and kind of just build out a patch, which was tough. But I've been in the US now since 2017. Worked for two businesses total over my career, which is quite short, really, for most recruiters. They usually work for a lot. But we've been with Signify since I joined just before the pandemic, so that was fun. Kind of trying to build something out from there. And now I'm a director looking after our Austin business unit. We've got about 12 people now, which we scaled up last year, kind of scaled down a little bit this year. But we're looking to grow it out. And right now we're kind of focusing on those functional programming markets, which have been really good for us.
Good. All right, nice one. So you went out to Austin before the hype, I guess, in my opinion. Austin wasn't the most spoken about state as much as like the New York, LA, for example. What made you want to move over there? What led you to Texas at the time?
Yeah, so it was actually, I moved out to California first. I did a year there. And I think the hype around California, it looks great, right? When you go on a holiday, you hear about people, you tell your friends, I'm moving to California, LA, and then, it's amazing, and all that kind of stuff. And did a year there, and I just, it just didn't vibe with me. I liked it. It was super expensive. I was with my wife at the time, and after a year, we just decided that we'd had enough. And I know a lot of people say, do 2 years, right? Do the 2 years, see if you like it. But we moved back to the UK, and then when we were back in the UK, I was doing the remote working, and I was working for Console Partners doing Pacific hours. So I was working 4 till 12 to 1, 2 a.m. in the morning, and it just got too much, in all honesty. And I saw the opportunity in the US and the money that you can make. So at that time, Console just opened an office in Austin. So we kind of toyed with the idea of Texas or Florida, state tax, all that kind of stuff, lifestyle. And we settled on Austin because there was an office there, and it just made it easy. So we went out to look at it, really liked the city, liked what we saw. Cost of living was super cheap back then. I know it's different right now, but it was really, really cheap. And it was a growing tech market there. And my clients had always been all over the US, right? So they weren't specific to locations, but I just saw it as like a good opportunity and potentially an area of growth. So that's kind of the reason I went out there.
Okay. So can you answer this? I had a recruitment business owner ask me last week to describe the culture and what it's like in Austin in comparison to somewhere like a New York or an LA and that kind of, maybe that city vibe. How would you describe Austin as a culture for a recruitment business, for instance, or just in general?
Yeah, I think there's some differences, right? In just in terms of staff that I found in Austin versus California. I think that a lot of companies in LA, they want to move British recruiters outright because they're trying to get a type of culture there in terms of work ethic and that kind of stuff. And I think what I noticed in LA a lot, it was that I almost going to say a little bit of entitlement, right? In terms of, this is my job, I do my hours, I leave, right? And that's it, that's all I put in. And that's not the same for everyone, because you get a lot of people out there that aren't from LA, right? And they're typically the best hires, right? The people from those other cities, New York, the Boston, that kind of space. But what I found in Austin is just a different type of recruiter, in my opinion. Just people that aren't afraid to, put in the work, get in early, get out late. And I never have an expectation of anyone to do that, but it's always good to see, right? Someone hungry and they're doing it for the right reasons. But I think the city is it's just very different, the types of people you meet. I think one of the things that we found very different when we moved to Austin is that when we go out in LA, or we meet people in LA, they talk to you, right? But then the conversation quickly moved to like, what do you do? Like, is it a good job? You know, what can I get from you as such? And one of the misconceptions we had when we got to Austin, people were really friendly, and they'd be super interested. Like, oh, where are you from? You know, what do you do? And it wasn't because they're trying to look to gain some information. They were just generally interested because they just, you know, you don't see many British people in Austin. There's, you know, it's getting more and more now. But I mean, where we lived in Round Rock, which is just outside of Austin, like it's, you know, they never see British people. Very, very rare. So they really want to know why you're here, what's brought you here. You know, if you move from California, they're like interested to know why, you know, because they're in their mind, it's like California is like the place to live. So, yeah, I'd say that those are the main differences. The people are just quite different, in all honesty.
Yeah, perfect. Fine. Shifting on to a different area of conversation, you mentioned before we got onto this podcast to record it that financially there's I mean, your team are billing crazy amounts of money and have done extremely well. Do you think if they were doing the same role in the UK market or in Europe market, it would you'd see the same returns, you know, where these guys and girls can bill up to $1 million, or do you think the opportunity is that lucrative?
No, I don't believe so. But saying that, we've had some people in the UK build some phenomenal numbers in the markets that we do.
Yeah.
But those people are the ones with a lot more experience, right? You know, the 5, 6, 7 year recruiters. Would I see a 1 year recruiter do $1 million or equivalent in the UK? Probably not. In all honesty, we haven't seen that, right?
No,
if I look
I
at
haven't.
Signify as a business, I think there's the opportunity, you know, based on the salaries, based on the percentages you can charge, even contract deals, the margins are huge. And I think in what we do, the disparity between the UK pay and the US pay is huge between, you know, Scala and functional programming that we do. So I don't believe that the markets are the same. I think they're very, very different. You know, I look at myself, right, and my best years in the UK were like 500-600k pounds, you know, doing contracts, and you know, quite easily I touched 2 million last year, and that's doing, you know, 30% splits, like house splits, because I wasn't at IC anymore. So yeah, my best years have all been in the US, in all honesty.
Okay. Do you not come up with any challenges? I mean, you seem to like have the market to cover to a point where, you know, from Signify, I've always been specialized in a specific market, you know, and obviously with other areas covered as well. What are the challenges like against competitors and, you know, winning business over there?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't, for a long time, we didn't see many competitors, right? You know, we've had the same transition that a lot of companies have where staff leave and they start their own firm, and there's some companies doing that now. But in general, I think the competition is quite low. You know, I look at some of our companies that we've won, some of the big brands, right, like the Twitters, the Disneys, etc. And those are firms where you'd expect to have a ton of competition, you know, working on these jobs. And I mean, we crushed most of the people, the big companies, you know, the tech systems, all those types of companies work in those roles. And I just don't think the competition's the same. I do also think there's that UK way of working where you're so used to working against so much competition that you just get quantity and quality out just a lot quicker. And that was always the feedback that we get from a lot of our customers. There are challenges though, because obviously the market that we do is highly paid, so the fees are big. So it's all good when you're working with those big companies and they're paying you the fees. But then when, you know, you're susceptible to changes very, very quickly. And I look at like Disney as an example. You know, we brought them on, and in, you know, I got the contract signed maybe December 2021, and then in 10 months or 9 months, we were doing like 3 or 4 permanent placements every single month, like you know, it was every single month. And then they have a bad quarter and it all stops, and they just die as a customer, like within, you know, 9 months of greatness, and then that's it, it's done. And that's one of our biggest customers gone immediately. So I think there's, you know, you are susceptible to that with the big companies when you're reliant on them. And then for the smaller startup companies, again, you know, if they lose funding or they just suddenly decide that they're going to, you know, hire an internal team, you lose all that kind of like success and progress that you made. And Scala's been our biggest programming language, but even that is having a decline right now in terms of like usage, and it's because there's a lot of changes. It has these communities, they're always fighting between themselves. So it kind of pushes people out. So I think those are some of the challenges that we're seeing right now, which is why we pivoted to things like Golang and Rust and tried to open that up a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the thing is, in the US, you've got that opportunity to do that a lot more with, recruiting, multiple states. Do you find that, on that subject, do you find recruiting and bringing on businesses across different areas of the US difficult? Do you have to have that FaceTime value with them? Do you do it over Zoom a lot more? How does it work for, you guys bringing on those accounts?
Yeah, I mean, we have obviously like a multi-pronged approach to business development. So we have, obviously the candidate side, business development from a client side. We have our workshops, we have our conferences, our meetups, and our branding stuff that we do with customers. And some of that's been successful in terms of bringing customers, bringing candidates, all that kind of stuff. And then some of it's not been successful this year. So like some of our ROI on our conferences that we sponsored, and we spent 6 figures sponsoring these conferences. We just haven't had the ROI this year. Like, we've met some good companies, we've had some good conversations. Things get to those term stage and they just don't convert. But I think that's just the market right now. But I don't think that the face-to-face has had any issues for us. During COVID, we were bringing customers on. A lot of it was through Zoom. I actually think that has helped a lot because customers now are much more interested to get on a video call. I think pre-COVID, I mean, like very rare when any of my customers want to do a video call, to be honest. But yeah, I don't think it's impacted us. We are based in LA, we are based in Austin, but do we have a huge amount of clients in LA? Not really. Do we have many clients in Austin? Not really. Like we just kind of have clients across the whole of the US.
Incredible, fun. And any tips, advice, or from experience? You guys have really successfully got some good recruiters built up from minimal amounts of experience in most cases, and you kind of train them the way that need to be trained. You mentioned that on the conversation we had before we jumped on this. What do you? A lot of recruiters in the US have got different ways and means of recruiting. A lot of firms love bringing over expats to to the US who have come from British businesses that know how to do 360. How have you experienced, training and developing, people that have left college or juniors to be successful?
So I think where we did find some success with college and grad students, right? We did to an extent, but where we tried to really push on is like sales experience. So that's where we've had more value. But then there's that challenge, right? Because they're so used to selling a certain product in a certain way, and the product never says no, right? Whereas in recruitment, your product, your candidate can just suddenly turn around and say, "Yep, not interested, don't want to do it." So some of the challenge we found with that is that if you try and put a salesperson into a pure 180 sales role in recruitment, they really struggle. They don't understand the context. They struggle with the follow-up questions. They struggle to really push the client in a certain way. And that is some of the challenges that we faced when we tried to do that kind of 180 sales model when we brought in people, because that's a successful model in the US, right? All the big companies, they're kind of sales, account management, delivery. And we thought, on the contract side, maybe we can start to replicate that and do that, because we were winning some big customers, some big MSPs and that kind of stuff. But I'll be honest, like probably those people have had the most success, or senior recruiters that we've hired. Some of the grads that we've hired have had good success, 400 or 500K billers in their first, second year. But again, with those people, from my experience, like you have to really help them a lot. And from the way that I approach like leadership is, you have to be in the weeds with them. Like you have to be willing to get in the weeds with them, and whether that's with a client, whether that's with a candidate. And I don't just mean jumping on a closing call or qualification call, but also helping them searching. Like it has to be really that basic. We have an L&D team. We've got 2 people now, but obviously they're based in the UK, so there's only so much of the day that they can be available based in London. So I think the success that we've had is like really like supporting them with clients, giving them stuff to work on. I think that's super important. I think they have to see success quickly. If they don't, then I think just with the market and the way people are right now, they get switched off really quickly. So I always, like right now, for example, if we don't have huge amounts of roles and vacancies to work on, I wouldn't want to hire juniors right now, because I just don't feel that I can give them quick success for them to feel like, cool, this is a real career that I can push on in, and just give them that confidence, because we've all been there, right? I started you know, I was on a pip after like 6 months because I was doing awful, right? And I wasn't confident on the phone. I'd kind of get up every day and be like, I don't know if this is like right for me, this is the right role for me. But then I just didn't have a lot to work on either. And the roles that you would work on, they were crap, right? It's like you're trying to place this role in the middle of like nowhere, the salary's rubbish, all that kind of stuff. And it was really difficult for me to build confidence. And I only got confidence once I had some success, which was pulling the lead, converting it, getting some placements. Then all of a sudden, like you build so quickly. And that's where I think like we've had success is people have seen like people come to the business, get deals pretty quickly, start to excel, and then they realize, wow, I can do that as well. So yeah, I think that's where our success has come. If I look at Signify recently, I definitely think on my old company Console, we were set up really well on the graduate side. You grab like 6-7 grads, put them in, training, but then obviously it was churn and burn, right? Like 2 or 3 workout. And I think what we tried to do here at Signify is not be like that, because it just impacts your culture, it impacts people. We really do try to think, if we're going to bring someone in, can they really have long-term success? It's not about hiring a group of people and just churning through them and the best person works out. I just don't think that's a sustainable model, but I understand it works for some companies and they do that, but that's just not what we're trying to do here.
Fine. So going off of what you just said, mate, so you've successfully built a fantastic business and office in Austin. What was it? You brought it from like what, 0 to 5 million, 6 million?
Yeah, so our second full year is 5.6 million split across.
Incredible. Fine. Yeah, incredible, mate. From what's the plan now? Where are you guys going with the business? Where do you see it over the next 12 months? Obviously, a lot of stuff is unpredictable at the minute, but how are you going to follow on the success of what you've achieved so far?
I think right now we're definitely focused on growing our contract revenue more, because we just see that as the path right now. A lot of companies, a lot of our customers are telling us the same. We're not hiring direct hire right now. We're just hiring contractors, even like long-term 18-month, 24-month contracts. So I think for us, you've got to sometimes follow the trends. I think the last couple of years, perm has been really dominant, right? Not enough talent, all that kind of stuff. But right now, obviously, where clients are fearful to spend money on fees and hires and that kind of stuff, I think you just got to go where the trends are. And contract for us is a big trend. And we're seeing, right now, we've just hit our most contractors out ever, our highest revenue ever. And, that's this year, not considering last year. In my mind, I was thinking, oh, we are growing. And it was only today when we announced it that I was like, oh, wow, we are growing much faster than I thought on the contract side. And we're adding loads of new runners each month. Extensions are happening left, right, and centre. So I think for us, that's where we're going to see a lot of our growth, especially here in the US, because some of our margins are big, right? They're big pay, big margin. The UK, when I used to be there, it was like 500 quid a week. If you get 500 quid a week, it's a good margin. And I mean, it's, out here you're looking at minimum 1,000, and that's a bad margin, right? 1,000 a week. So that's where we see our growth. And then obviously the offices, we're in LA, we're in Austin, we're looking to open in Miami. But it's tough, it's tough to hire someone to open an office, in my opinion, because you want them to have the Signify brand, the culture. And the best way to develop that is to move someone, but ultimately you have to have those people in the business that all want to move or want to do that. And then there's that other element of, do they want to really lead? And we've experienced that same problem, the same as other companies. You promote ICs into leadership positions, and they don't really want to lead. They do it for the title, the base, commission, all that kind of stuff. But it's really fun, those people that are willing to give that up to help their teams, succeed. And it's kind of like, for me personally, I think that as a leader, as you move up, you really take a few steps back, because your earnings come down, you get hit, you start splitting out deals a lot more rather than 360. And it's tough. And it's tough to kind of look at that and be like, wow, I'm earning less than last year. I've got more pressure on me, more stress, more time that I'm putting into the team. But it does come good. And for me personally, I saw that, with Signify, that my best earning years were as a director, because my team, that year they grew phenomenally, right? 5.6 million. And that made me a lot of money. But, it did take me a little while to step back. And, when I started out as leader, I don't think I was a particularly good leader. I was very selfish. I cared about myself, just cared about my earnings. But over time, you come to learn that the bigger picture is important. And if you do it in the right way, you can succeed far more than being an IC, in my opinion.
Everything you've just said is exactly how every recruitment leader, manager feels, you know, all the time, you know, just trying to break it all up. So what you've just said not only is insightful just from a US perspective, but, you know, for those leaders that are listening to this and are in that position, you know, so many firms right now are trying to open up in the US. They have done since, you know, for a few years now. A lot of them, unfortunately, are failing. A lot of them are not growing. A lot of them are, you know, trying to still figure things out. But you seem to have kind of got it wrapped up nicely in what you're doing. And yeah, going in the right direction, mate, is what I'm trying to say. So look, hats off to you. You've built a very successful team. I guess, look, you know, final question for you is, you know, for those firms that are currently looking to set up in Austin, for instance, right now, which I know loads of them are, any advice or tips or any suggestions that you would give to them in terms of who they get to be the first person on the ground against, whether they bring someone from the UK or hire someone straight away in the US? I know it's similar to or going to have something to do with what you just said.
I think ideally you want to have someone that knows the market, because there's the language that you use, right? There's types of language that you use, how you refer to certain things, you know, direct hires and contingent labor and all that kind of stuff. And there's a lot of elements that you just don't know, like moving to the US, you know, how you payroll contractors if you're doing that stuff, how all that works, you know, the W-2 costs. There's a lot that I had to learn when I got here, in all honesty, a lot that I had to learn. And that was working in an office where they'd been here, right? But I would say that having someone on the ground that understands the language, understands the setup of stuff, yeah, obviously someone that can, you know, win customers is the main thing, right? Because otherwise you have nothing to work on. But I would definitely start with someone that knows the market, or you could bring Brit over, but if they work the market, they have to work the market. You're just going to struggle, in my opinion. I also would say that location is super important. You know, when I first got to Austin, I worked downtown, and what I noticed is that where people live in general, Austin is very expensive close to the city. So most people live either very much south or they live very much north. So being central actually isn't that great. It's actually a hindrance, because parking, the costs, you know, you're trying to hire graduates or junior staff, they don't want to pay all that stuff. They don't want, and if you're a business, you've then got to subsidize it, and it's going to cost you more money. So like where we're based right now, in the Domain area, is central to a lot of the highways. Like you can get there from anywhere pretty quickly as well. So I would say that you've also got to think about the location and the types of people that you're trying to attract. If you have that mentality to hire grads, train grads, for me, you don't want to be downtown, but you just don't. Like the universities and stuff are all north. That's where all the people are based. So like go where you're hunting for talent, in my opinion. You can get to downtown to meet people, meet clients very easily, but I think people forget that element when they set up, and they always go for that prime spot, that expensive spot, and then they realize that we can't get talent there because no one wants to go there. So I'd say those are like the two main elements that I'd think about. And then third and fourth is obviously your niche and like what you're doing and why.
Yeah,
like especially right now, you need that more than ever. If you don't have that, you're just going to be in the noise, you know, in all honesty.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is most asked question is, where should I be, and you know, what's the best location? And I think no matter where you are, people get sidetracked by other things that aren't necessarily important for their business. And you know, the things that you just said are, I probably would say, are my two top tips as well. You know, for talent and for growth, but also for expense and costs. You know, people think that certain states are that cheap, but you know, it might well be from a tax perspective and multiple reasons, but it's still expensive in other ways. So it balances out. But no, look, mate, I really appreciate your time. Thank you for jumping on with me. A lot of what you said is extremely insightful. Will help a lot of others out there. I'm going to share a lot of these, you know, small clips that we've discussed to you know, put out to the market. Is there anything anyone wants to know, or anyone's interested in looking at what Signify do as a business, you know, feel free to reach out directly. I'll put all your contact details on here anyway for those that want to have a discussion with you. But other than that, thank you again, and appreciate your time.
Appreciate it. Cheers.